New York Tzu Chi volunteers prepare fresh produce and Jingsi instant foods for Bangladeshi communities. Taiwan Tzu Chi volunteers cherish the memory of Master Jiaming from Taichung Zhengjue Temple for her virtues and selflessness. Welcome to Dai Headlines. I'm Joyce Ho. Thank you for joining us. In our first report, Tzu Chi New York chapter prepare vegetable, fruits, instant rice and instant noodles for distributions to Bangladeshi communities in need.
Bangladesh Community Association has collected food including milk, which will be distributed to residents in need, along with vegetables, fruits, and Jingsi food products provided by Tzu Chi.
We've come to downtown Manhattan for the fourth time to distribute supplies in Bangladesh community. In the past, we've had little contact with them. However, Manhattan residents told us these people belong to the working class, with some of them driving taxis. The epidemic has impacted them and they need help. The most important thing is that we are also distributing instant rice and instant noodle transported from our Taiwan headquarters.
New York City has gradually opened up, but unemployed residents still face financial difficulties. Tzu Chi is holding distributions in Bangladesh community, Tzu Chi New York chapter, and Brooklyn liaison office.
Tzu Chi has been on the ground helping our communities, providing food, providing cash assistance, and we are very much in support of all of their initiatives.
Volunteers fill boxes with vegetables and fruit and promote vegetarianism.
I hope you can embrace vegetarianism like us. Look, we are retired and we look so young.
At the distribution in Manhattan, it rained heavily. To ensure that more than 100 residents can receive supplies, Tzu Chi volunteers set up tents and hand out the bags of vegetables and supplies to the residents. They work efficiently so the residents can go home with the supplies.
In China, Huangmei County in Hubei has been devastated by heavy rain and flooding. Wuhan Tzu Chi volunteers traveled to the disaster areas for the third time within half a month to see how the residents are doing.
别人慈善机构都是发钱，人都见不到人。像你们的话，很深的泥，家家户户去，家家户户劝，这种精神真的是做真事的，是不是？
In half a month, Tzu Chi volunteers are visiting Huangmei County for the third time. The county government shows its appreciation.
On behalf of our residents and affected residents, we want to thank you. This is a letter of appreciation.
After heavy rain devastated Huangmei County, Wuhan volunteers assessed damages on July 10th. Then they bought aid supplies to be distributed 2 days later. Now they're visiting for the third time, caring for the affected residents.
We hope to form good affinities with the residents by giving them these gifts. We want to give of ourselves in the aftermath of the flood.
Volunteers went to the shelter to understand how people are using the aid supplies. They're comforted to know the residents are using them well.
If you did not donate the beds and blankets, they would not be living comfortably. They said that the supplies you donated are quite good.
因为知道这个堂是大家的很多的爱心汇聚在一起的，所以这个效果就不一样了。哎，我们也是很好睡的，很好睡的，哦，大家都很感谢的。
Besides understanding the living conditions of the affected residents, volunteers also went to the disaster area to see how the flood water is receding. Although the situation has improved, there's still much to do to restore the place to its former glory.
These wooden poles can fasten it. When the water comes splashing, the new mud will fall off. After we fasten the wooden poles, we add the belts.
Volunteers are glad to see the wooden poles they donated and helping the residents prevent future floods. After visiting the residents, they also discussed with local officials about upcoming disaster relief work, hoping to help the residents return to normal life.
In Guizhou, China, a minority ethnic village experienced a landslide that destroyed 26 houses and damaged 45 more. Tzu Chi volunteers visited the village to provide emotional support as well as financial assistance.
The debris of the collapsed house walls and furniture are scattered on the hill. A village of the Gelao ethnic group has experienced this natural disaster. The hillside has slid down, affecting 71 households.
The stone looks hard, but it peels off. The residents did not take anything before they evacuated. They escaped from the scene. After we evacuated, the houses collapsed.
Fortunately, the government has evacuated the residents to a safe area for temporary shelter. Since the shelter space is limited, most residents are elderly and children.
I've stayed here for 4 days since my house has collapsed.
Upon learning of their situation, city volunteers went to the village to care for them. They've brought financial assistance to help residents rebuild their homes.
When I held a bowl and ate, I thought about the collapsed house and I could not eat anymore. I will save money and rebuild my home. We don't want to spend the financial assistance. We will repair and rebuild our homes.
Volunteers bow with their best wishes. The affected residents also smiled again, ready to get back on their feet with volunteers' best wishes.
Let's work together to rebuild our homes, all right? Stay strong.
In Shenyang, China, many old neighborhoods are currently undergoing community renewal. Tzu Chi volunteers visited several districts to assist with the painting of public furniture, as well as to promote environmental awareness.
哎呀妈呀，这湿辣辣的，好臭啊！我是可回收桶啊，生活厨余不归我管，太可恶了。
Comedic short skit on recycling have attracted people passing by. Shenyang Tzu Chi volunteers started promoting environmental protection to local communities through activities.
I want to bring recycling to our lives. I want to inspire more residents to make our community more civilized and beautiful.
While a volunteer group promotes eco-friendliness, another volunteer group assisted with repainting public benches.
带我女儿来参加这个活动呢，就是想让
I brought my daughter here to this event with the mindset of giving her the opportunity to do good deeds. It will be helpful for her future.
去种福田，然后去做一些能帮助人的一些事情。
To be a part of this, we share our love with the community and we make more friends through meaningful acts.
This activity is called the Saturday's Volunteer Service, and it's supported by Tzu Chi and other volunteers. I'm really thankful for your assistance.
After the volunteers' help, the communities come back to life. The seed of goodness is planted amongst everyone.
Master Zhao Ming, the third abbot of Zhengjue Temple in between Taichung, recently passed away at the age of 78. The friendship between Master Zhao Ming and Tzu Chi was fostered during September 21st earthquake relief in 1999. Tzu Chi volunteers will always remember her kindness and her virtues.
Master Zhao Ming passed away recently and her funeral is conducted solemnly. Tzu Chi volunteers have been going there to pray for her for days. Master Chuanzhong founded the Zhengjue Temple in 1956. When the September 21st earthquake occurred in 1999, the temple lent its kitchen to Tzu Chi volunteers, who used it to cook meals and give the meals to the quake survivors in Taiping, Xinshe, Fongyuan, and other areas.
The volunteers had passion because they wanted to help the quake survivors. I felt very heartwarming about this.
Some volunteers still remember the condition back then clearly.
When we got the first phone call, Master Dao Ming told me that everything was okay. We just had to go there and they would help us with anything. We cook meals, 3,000 sets of breakfast, lunch, and supper every day.
Master Dao Ming has been helping poor people for a long time. Her reminders during in the volunteers' years. Everyone prays for her having a good party and returning to the world again.
In DIB restaurant in Malaysia, most of the staff are hearing impaired and meals can only be ordered by sign language. As founder Zhen Jiming established this restaurant to create opportunities for those with such disabilities to help pave way for their independence.
I've just ordered hot chocolate with sign language. Usually when we go to restaurants, we order meals with language, which is very clear. However, it is different here. Whether you want to order meals or communicate with the waiters, you need to use sign language. This is not hard to understand. This DIB restaurant is the first deaf and mute restaurant in Malaysia. More than 90% of the staff are deaf and mute, and therefore they communicate by using sign language. People order meals by using sign language. The pictures of gestures on the wall help people communicate.
I think they understand us more because sometimes we just say like how to wrap around, take away, then they know it. Their mind open and look at all around. They are very responsive compared to other restaurants. I find it quite helpful.
They're equivalent to us. There's no differences I see, and just that they're not able to speak and hear. But what their job scope is given, they are doing it very well. And when they serve us, they are very humble. So I really appreciate them.
The food industry emphasizes service, and the deaf restaurant does not hold people come because of curiosity.
Today we have up to 10 deaf staff and 2 coach. I need to prove something to the society that the deaf can do it. But I mean, if we just hire 1 or 2 deaf staff just to wipe tables and to mop the floor, and there's no big deal. It's nothing to talk about their skill and their ability to work.
Since the restaurant opened in 2011, there have been all kinds of challenges. They persevered, hoping to prove that deaf people can support themselves.
Finance is one challenge. Secondly, also the deaf staff. Not everybody have the patience to stick on and learn. And some of them resign after maybe 2 or 3 months. They have the skill, they have the talent. Seriously, they are very smart. They have just a diamond. Somebody has to polish the diamond. Otherwise, it looks like a black stone. But once you polish the black stone, it becomes a diamond. I mean, of course, you're 0 when you're unemployed, you're 0 when you have no skill. But once you are employed and you have skills and you're independent, then you are a hero, in the society. I mean, they take care of themselves. They don't need charity from the government. They don't need to take money from the family.
Operating the restaurant is not easy. Then the business was impacted by the epidemic. The picture seems to say they've risen above life's challenges.
It talks about us being in the boat together, and when the boat sinks, we sing together. And then the boat is inside the sea, and the sea is very, very strong wave, right? Again, means a challenge. That's why we are always in the boat there. We never get off the boat. It's always in the sea, very challenging.
They have worked as a team for 9 years. For Alan, seeing how the mute staff learns and grows is what motivates him to move forward.
Guo Jiancheng is a person with hearing impairment. While growing up, he once felt despair due to the deafness. Fortunately, being the youngest child, the love and support provided by his family helped him through the hardship. He is now working independently and pursuing his dreams.
How does it feel to be in a world without sound? How do you express your feelings? Ko Jian-chen loves good food and has excellent cooking skills. He's also good at making coffee and is the restaurant's role model staff member.
When he first joined us, he was only 20 years old. He came with his father for interview. Very shy, the head looked down, like that. But now he can cook Western food. He's our barista, coffee barista.
He's happy-go-lucky. He loves to eat. He loves to make friends. And all the deaf people here listen to him.
Ko Jian-chen often takes care of the new staff members. Now he can perform well at his job. However, during his childhood, his family worried about him.
Children are afraid of thundering, but Guo Jianchen did not. He seemed fine and was still playing.
We brought him to see the doctors everywhere. However, he could not be treated, so we let him learn sign language. I was really worried about how he would make a living in the future.
Ko Jian-chen's family gave him love and care, so he's able to become optimistic and happy.
One time the chef scolded me and I cried. However, I thought about it positively. If I am scolded, I will endure and face it with optimism. If our other colleagues are facing difficulties and are willing to tell me about it, I'll help them solve problems. I'll encourage them and make them feel happy. If they feel embarrassed, I'll tell them, don't be shy, stay strong and hang on.
Ko Jian-chen did not become despair because he cannot hear. His look shows his passion for life.
You can see the pure from their. It's not because of the words. It's just from their eyes and the body language. There's no age limit in deaf. There's no beautiful or ugly. It's like they treat you like everybody the same money. Yeah, that's what I like about them.
Although their world is without sound, they do not give up on themselves. It is hoped that they will have more opportunities to prove themselves and pursue a brighter future.
Corn can be consumed directly as a side dish or soup-based ingredient. There's multiple possibilities in cooking, and consumption spawns a misconception of corn as a vegetable or fruit. Instead, all types of corn actually belongs to the family of whole grains or starchy foods.
Corn is a common food choice. Do you think of corn as vegetable or starch?
If I cook corn and eat it right after, the amount of rice I would consume would be less, since I would be full by then.
I eat less rice, but eat more corn. I'm satisfied with eating corn.
There is a misconception on the internet that corn can be eaten as a fruit. It is wrong to think that sweet corn is a vegetable and glutinous rice corn belongs to grains.
They all belong to whole grains category. On the same level as rice, if you eat a third of a corn, you have just consumed a bowl of rice.
Not only corn, but many other starch foods, when used as a side dish, are often thought of as vegetables, when in fact they are starches.
An example would be potatoes, pumpkins, and yams. They seem to be vegetables, but they are actually like rice, whole grains.
These foods can be used as side dishes, but when it comes to treating it as a main dish, the amount has to be controlled in order to prevent consuming too much starch.
A survey found that 5.1% of the domestic population in Taiwan under the age of 18 had experiences of drug use. Some believe anti-drug campaign must be carried out in schools as early as possible so that students can understand the terrible nature of drugs and their long-term effects on health.
The drug dealers use code words for things such as amphetamines. They will say they are holding, or will have a type of candy, or will be staying at home, which means they can provide drugs and place to drug abuse.
The secret language on the internet has allowed for these drug transactions, with prosecutors focusing on this in their investigation.
When we find that there is a nickname or a drug term like dialogue, the program will automatically take a screenshot of the message on screen and send it to the mobile phone of the police officer and the email e-box of the prosecutor.
Mobile games, Facebook Line, and WeChat have gradually become dark drug buying alleys.
We call on WeChat to buy drugs. We don't use line messaging because we are afraid that a record left can be investigated by police.
Drug dealers may use some instant messaging software in order to avoid communication surveillance.
Prosecutors tracked down popular synthetic drugs after investigation was found that ketamine accounted for 31% of market ranking first, followed by drugged coffee bags accounting for 19% of the market.
A lot of drugs come from abroad, so this depends on international cooperation.
In May 2017, the Executive Yuan promulgated the synthetic anti-drug strategy, and the four main points of emphasis have become the basis for government action. In addition to the public opposing drugs, they're trying to guard against foreign drugs from entering Taiwan, and later government units must track down drugs, and then government and private sector must cooperate to help drug addicts for rehab.
I just want to quit drugs, but every time I find myself addicted to drugs.
For 18% of the population, schools are the place where they first encounter drugs. Once a student is found to have signs of drug exposure, the school will put them on a drug suspicion list and take urine tests at least twice every semester.
When the urine sample is brought in, it will be examined for cannabis, ketamine, methamphetamine, and ecstasy.
Urine is dripped onto the test agent, and in just 20 seconds, the types of drugs the students had taken within 48 hours showed up one by one.
If a student uses Class 1 or Class 2 drugs, we will ask him to go to a treatment facility to detox, and then we will still have 3 months of counseling, and if there is still a drug problem, we will ask the police for assistance.
If you do more drug control on campus, the chances of students encountering drugs will be less.
This robot knocks out drugs like ecstasy, drug coffee, and amphetamines, so you can't enter nightclubs and internet cafes.
We let these students understand the types of drugs and their dangers.
This lady probably started to take drugs when she was in her 20s. By the time she was in her 30s, her whole face and spirit were completely destroyed.
The injury from drug abuse is irreversible. This 50-year-old Chen Huizhu has been in rehab for 20 years, but 15 years of drug abuse has resulted in irreversible damage.
Now I have heart failure as it become very swollen because I can't metabolize water. I have in the second stage of liver fibrosis, and my uterus was also removed. I almost never look in a mirror.
Those who have returned from the ravages of drug abuse tell about its horrors and how it can change a person. The only way to completely eliminate this danger is to educate the public and curious teenagers about the risks of doing drugs and the virtue of a clean and healthy life.
In order to donate a second batch of COVID-19 prevention materials, Tzu Chi chapter had help from the National Health Service System for tax-free importation. Tzu Chi volunteers also prepare winter clothing and necessities for elderly in rest homes. Thank you for joining us and see you next time.